Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Carry On Teacher from 1959, directed by Joel Thomas, and of course the third Carry On film in the series. As yes, we are back once again to discuss Carry On the channel, and this time around one of the early ones, and this will be very interesting to talk about today. Sorry again for the second time last night, and wanted to discuss this film. First of all, there will be a spoiler warning for this discussion. If you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first and then come back to this video. We can go from there. We can talk in the comments and discuss all things Carry On. So yes, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film. So yes, as I say, last night watching this for the second time, and this is a one that I do enjoy quite a bit, I must say, and I think it's a one that has grown on me. First seeing it last year, along with quite a few of the earlier Carry-Ons, and they don't really feel, I've said this before, like true Carry-On films. There is something that's not, at this point the series hasn't quite come into its own, in the tone, in the way the jokes are done, built up, and just the way they're executed, and just, the overall feel of this and the style of the Carry On films haven't quite come about, and I do stand by that. This is, kind of, it's got hints of Carry On, these early few films, but they're not, kind of like, for example, Carry On Camping and stuff, like that, or Carry On Screaming. There are very, very different films, completely different, and I think despite that, it is really, really nice to see these ones, rewatching Carry On Teacher. I do think this is one of the standouts actually of the early films, and I do really enjoy this one at times, and I think this is the one that is really, solid overall. Of course, the basic plot follows the acting headmaster, Mr. Wakefield, played by Ted Ray, kind of wanting to move school, to another position, and of course, at the secondary school, and he kind of wants to move, and there is this inspection about to take place. Of course, Miss Wheeler, played by Rosalind Knight, she is the inspector, and also along with her will be the child psychiatrist, played by Leslie Phillips in this film, and so the headmaster does not want this to actually kind of ruin his chances, of kind of moving school. So he kind of holds this meeting, of course, with the staff to basically make sure they're on board to kind of allow it to go swimmingly and to go smoothly. And for that not to look bad on him, so he can be, of course, successful, and a high chance of actually moving to this other school. Of course, the students do not want this. One of the pupils does overhear the kind of meeting, and then of course they try to sabotage the rest of the film. The actual inspection. So he does eventually stay, and that is the plan from them. So this is the setup, and as we know, the rest of the film, is pranks, practical jokes, and all this stuff going on with the teachers. Bizarre stuff, and them getting drunk at one point, and loads of explosive moments, but also very subtle and very involving actually at times. Kind of drama, and something to really get behind. With this acting headmaster, kind of feel some things as well for in the end. At least for me, and I think this film overall, I did really enjoy again. It did improve, as I say, after watching this again, and I just think it's a very pleasant film. Like the previous two films, the Carry On series, it does have that kind of soothing effect. It's very gentle, low-key, you could say, but I think this is much more involving, personally, than the previous two films. For example, Carry On Nurse. This is a one that straight away, as opposed to that one, I was hooked on this film, and it's a very gradual film at times, but it is instantly something I can get, invested in, relate to the characters, and I think it's one of the best things about this film is the structure. I think it's very well structured at times, and just the script and the way we do get invested in the individual characters, the actual teachers, and we do get invested in the headmaster. One of the things that kind of lets it down in that sense is the actual students themselves. Basically, zero character development for any of the students, so that was a drawback. And of course, it doesn't hurt the film too much because it is more about the headmaster and stuff. But they are in a lot of the film, and there is no character development whatsoever, really. At least for me, and didn't really learn anything about any of these characters. So that was one of the things. They're just kind of there, and they do this stuff, the jokes, but there's nothing to really learn about these characters. But as for the staff, the actual teachers themselves, I did love at times, these performances. Hattie, Jacques, Kenneth Connor, Kenneth Williams, Charles Hawtrey, Joan Sims. That is the main group of teachers, and they are so hilarious in this film at times, and just the way in which it starts off is quite interesting. But once it gets going, and things that start happening to the actual teachers, this is hilarious at times. I love the way in which we have these practical jokes over the course of the film being played on the teachers, and all the while we do learn a lot about these teachers individually, and their particular aspects, their traits. I think Charles Hawtrey being the kind of music teacher who isn't, the best, kind of composing, as they kind of view him in this film, and just how that progresses as well. Well, all the time, we have different things happening to these teachers, and them trying to control the students. So it is really well balanced, and as I say, yes, the students aren't developed at all, but the teachers, I do really like the way that's developed. And there are two romances that form as well in this film. Of course, Rosalind Knight playing Miss Wheeler, of course, and she gets together with Kenneth in this film, and Joan Sims as well with Leslie Phillips, the child psychiatrist. So those are the two romances that kind of form pretty instantly in this film, and of course, especially the Joan Sims, Leslie Phillips one, that was pretty much instant, and they're kind of drawn to each other, and I do really like the way in which it starts off in this kind of fantastical way, and then there are some things along the way that kind of get in the way of that, particularly with Joan Sims and, of course, Leslie Phillips. Of course, Kenneth one is a bit more kind of straightforward, but of course, the way he fumbles his lines throughout this film, and the kind of things he does that are kind of mixing things up and stuff, it kind of gets in the way of that, at first, and then both of the romances do come together in the end. So I do really like the way in which it's very organic in this film. I think these two romances, in a way, it's kind of structured again, and kind of gradually revealed to us at different times, throughout the film. I really like the editing, the way it's kind of done, the romance, the drama, the comedy, of course, and all the explosive stuff that's going on, showing, of course, the students and, them trying to put together these plans at times, throughout the film, and then there's teachers, of course, overhearing this, and I just think it's a very well-made film at times in that sense. The script as well is really strong, and I just love how, all these teachers are kind of giving very interesting characters, and all unique from one another, but they are, it feels quite authentic, the way these are, teachers have been together, for example, for quite a while, and I think the cast in this film, the main cast, play it so well. Hattie Jacques, has some hilarious moments, and I think the standouts for me is probably Kenneth and I would say as well, Kenneth Williams in this film, but all of the characters in this, all of the cast members, the main 5 of the regulars that are playing the teachers, are hilarious in this film. Charles Hawtrey as well, when the piano falls, that's one of the funniest moments. And I think, some of the highlights for me, especially, are the drunk, sequence, I think being one of them. That, when the teachers kind of get, alcohol put in the teas and all this, and they start to drink this, and they get, pretty instantly, drunk, and they're dancing around the room out there and falling around. It is absolutely hilarious, and when, of course, the inspector comes in there, it's so funny, and Kenneth Williams, his moments there, he's just shouting, laughing, singing, kind of stuff, so funny, and Joan Sims as well in this film is so funny, and just when Leslie Phillips, kind of the interactions with them, just when she's doing the P sequence there, that was so funny, and just one of the highlights again, and just really when all the pranks are getting kind of enacted on the teachers, I think that's all of that stuff is hilarious. When Charles Hawtrey falls through the floor there, of course Hattie Jacques, the kind of on the doorknob there, she touches and then gets electrocuted. That was so funny, and just all of these moments, it is quite explosive at times, and quite shocking in that sense, in the way they amp it up, but it's not a film that is over the top too much, and it is very restrained at times, not too much, like I would say probably Sergeant and Nurse, they had a little bit too much restraint. It wasn't a film, both of those films, they were not, they didn't quite go far enough with the comedy at times, and I think this one has got a nicer balance. There is a bit more outgoing, sense of, perhaps over the top comedy, but it's not too much, and it is more, they go for it more, it's more of a carry-on, kind of comedy feel, but it's not, too much, and they do have, control over this a bit more in this one, so it's very nice to see, and I think just the final act, we have, of course, being very explosive, it's very similar to, a lot of comedies where they do have, a bit more of the grand kind of, the play, for example, the final act, things really go down there, with all the pranks and stuff. I think it's just, perhaps loses a little bit of focus, on some of the character work there in that final act. But it is still very funny at times, in the final act, and it does lead to a very, very nice and satisfying for me final sequence where we have, of course, the headmaster kind of going about to leave, and then all the students and all the teachers are kind of watching on, and Ted Ray is kind of giving this kind of moment here where he just says basically he's going to stay, and everyone cheering, and then everyone kind of happy in the end. The romances once again kind of culminating fully there, and we have all the reactions of all the characters and the smile and stuff, and then just fading to the actual end title there. So I do really like that ending. It's an ending for me. I like my happy endings, and just moments where things come together in a nice way. And it is a film that we have touch and go there at times for some of the characters. So it's not all just plain sailing. But then I do really like the complex nature of the headmaster, and the way in which in the end he does stay at this school. It's really really warm, this film. I found it to be, once again, very warm, soothing, as I've said, very charming. I think there are some times where this film could have been even funnier, if they'd really gone for it. But I think, for the most part, it finds a very nice balance between, revealing the characters, more about them, the plot, of course, the drama, the romance, and the comedy. And, it's a nice balance with the kind of, the way in which the comedy's done. Some big practical moments as well. The effects are very well done, and I think the sets in this film, the actual location of the school is really really nice and enjoyable. It's a very nostalgic film, obviously being set in a secondary school, and I think the way it's done, it is very charming, and very very nice, very relaxing to watch once again, and I did get very invested at times in this film. So overall, my rating for this film is a 69%. So this one, I do really like at times. I think it's a solid film. It's one that has grown on me, as I say, better than last time watching it, and I think it finds a nice balance, a nice tone. It has a very nice atmosphere to this one, and once the film, introduces the characters and the actual, setup to the film, I think it really becomes very, very funny. And I think it's, that first 10 minutes, 15 minutes is very nice, and it has some funny moments, but it's more, setting it up, and then it really gets going, and it's quite hilarious at times, and really any of the scenes where the kind of teachers are discussing things in the rooms and stuff, Kenneth Williams, Charles Hawtrey, the kind of bickering between them. Hattie Jacques has a bit more of a control over the group. Kenneth Connor is kind of doing his own thing, drawing at times, and Joan Sims as well. They all have a very the nice way in which the characters have developed. They all have their own traits, and I think the way they play off each other as well, in that sense of what I've mentioned, is very well done. I found really a couple of the scenes when they're kind of just discussing things in the rooms, the staff room and stuff. That was some of my favourite moments, just showing these teachers, and the main regulars are really the ones that are playing these teachers. So I think it's perfect in that sense with the way they're cast as the teachers. Some things could have been funnier here and there, throughout the film, and it still doesn't fully feel like a the true carry-on feel, the atmosphere, the way that the film's made a bit later on in the series, cruising perhaps, but mainly I think with Carry On spying onwards, for quite a while. That was when the true meat of the Carry On series was on the way, and I think all of the cast members, it was very very different to these early ones. But despite that, I do appreciate all of the different periods, other than the last few Carry On films that were made. That kind of epilogue, you could say. I'm not a fan of that, but in the rest of the Carry On franchise and the different periods and kind of stages of the Carry On films, I do appreciate all aspects, and I think this is the one that I do really enjoy at times. I will say, on my rating, thinking of that, is a 69, but it is kind of a 70. I will explain, perhaps, if a film is rated a 69 or a 70, or a 79 or an 80 and such stuff like this, I think perhaps so viewer, you shouldn't take it to the point where I don't consider this a good film. Mostly it's just very much on the cusp, and even though I have, for example, given this an average rating, it says average, of course. That's just for my own mind, because I have got some kind of a system, and I can't just round up a film and then call it good necessarily, even though it probably is kind of a good film, or at least very very close. And I think it's very very tricky. I do consider obviously this to be a solid film, and I think sometimes when, for example, I'm talking with my brother, and he says, yeah, it's a good film, and then I go sometimes, I thought you said it was a very good film, and it's just he goes, yeah, well, I do, but you don't have to use exact wording sometimes for films, all the time. And, for example, every time you talk about one of your favourites, you don't have to, say it's a masterpiece every time. Sometimes, I've been realising recently, I do get a bit, kind of caught up on that. And so, just kind of letting you know that, even though this is a 69, and some different films, if they are very close to another kind of description, for example, good, very good, great, then they are kind of, it's kind of almost there kind of thing. So just saying that, just perhaps I need to, yes, get a bit more relaxed with that in that sense as well, and hearing different terms of descriptions of films. What do you think of this film? Very good, and not be too confused. And just realise sometimes people will say good or very good, and it doesn't really. There isn't necessarily a difference sometimes if it's especially with my ratings, and they are quite close. But I did want to give it kind of the same rating. I didn't want it to change that and call it a good film, because it is technically by my rating system, 69 being an average film, but I do think it's very much on the border there, and it is kind of a good film as well. So that's a bit of a ramble there. Just clearing that up if I have. I think just trying to explain how mine works and stuff, and it's just, it doesn't really matter really if it's kind of borderline, next very close to another kind of rating scale, or bracket. It doesn't really. There isn't really too much of a difference. So that's my thoughts on this film. What do you think of this? It'd be really great to hear, and I look forward to talking about this in the comments, and different Carry On films. How would you compare this to different Carry Ons, and what do you think on this film personally? And next up for the Carry Ons, the review will be Carry On Camping. Now, I did review this 5 years ago now on the channel, and again, things have changed. In terms of I love this film now. I will say that now, and I'm watching this film again tomorrow, and reviewing kind of Saturday kind of thing. So I'll be talking about that film, and it'll probably be up on Sunday, and I cannot wait to watch that again. But even since watching it, it has grown on me again massively, and I think I kind of perhaps gave that one too low a score last time round. So that will be next, Carry On Camping. Look forward to that, and hearing your thoughts on that film as well. And so that's a heads up for different Carry On films, and the ranking, of course, and all this, and the way the ratings, kind of really truly, work, on the channel. So yes, with all that said, it'd be great to discuss this film and all things Carry On in the comments. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.